What's college football gonna look like the end of this decade?
College football is back, and we're back on the Big Mountain, where we bring you a detailed focus on the Big Ten, the Mountain West, and everything that's going on in college football.
Hey, it's good to have you here on the mountain. I am JY. This is my good friend Steve. And Steve, we are going to do a little preview video here about a series that we want to do over the off season. We're going to call it, College Football 2030. And I'm going to let you kind of lay out. We have a 5 or 6 episode series that we want to do. We're going to break the first video next week on February 1st, and then you're going to get a new video about once a month, kind of the beginning of the month up until about summertime, and then we're going to be hot and heavy getting into the college football season for next year. But this was kind of Steve's idea. Steve's thinking to put this out, so I'm going to let him explain kind of where we're headed with this. So go ahead, Steve.
Appreciate it, JY. As you know, this is something I'm excited about. This is something it's been an ongoing conversation between you and I. Just all these rule changes, everything that's going on, the conference realignment. How's that going to affect the Big Ten? Because that's where I'm focused. How does it affect the Mountain West? A smaller conference.
Right.
There's so many things going on. And college football is so important to so many people across the country. Whether they're SEC fans, ACC fans, Big Ten, Mountain West. There's so many people who are invested in college football. And these huge athletic departments, they employ so many people. It's a huge industry. It's very important. So I wanted to continue our conversation with our YouTube viewers. So we're calling this College Football 2030, and that's what it is. It's a continuing conversation. It's a series of episodes. So the first episode, I want to talk about NCAA rules. Okay, we did another episode where Charlie Baker put out his proposal. The NCAA is trying to stave off the Supreme Court's being totally crushed or annihilated, just being ruled an antitrust violation at all. So they're trying to come back to modern reality. What's legal? How can we have a path move forward? So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about, again, kind of deep dive into Charlie Baker's presentation again. He recently this week had a meeting with what he called the Power 5 commissioners, as they operate now. And I think it sounded like there was some pushback from them, especially the Power 2, as we call it, the Big Ten and the SEC. So we want to talk about that some more and where we see that going. So again, I see this as a conversation. I have some ideas where I think it's going. You have some ideas, and I'm hoping our viewers will give us some comments. Give us some ideas and some questions of where do you think college football will be in 2030? Do you think the NCAA will even exist? And just questions, things you want us to talk about, so we can continue that conversation with with our first episode in the series, talking about NCAA regulations and rules and stuff. Okay.
Awesome.
So the next episode, so that one will be in February.
Yes.
Okay. In March, we're going to talk about the college football playoff. We've already talked this year about how it's expanding to 12 teams. That's going to be huge. That's a major change. It not only affects the big conferences like the SEC and the Big Ten, hopefully getting more teams in, but we've talked about how we think it gives more opportunity for a conference like the Mountain West to get somebody in. Here's looking at you, Boise, for next year. But even, if you're fans of Fresno, Wyoming, even Air Force, any of those programs, UNLV, we'll see how they are after everything that's happening in the offseason. But, those teams really have a chance of making that 12-team playoff. So we want to look at, okay, when we get to 2030, we get to the end of the decade, it's going to still be a 12-team playoff. How is this 12-team playoff over the next few years going to change the landscape of football? Because the 4-team playoff it made a lot of changes to football, I think. So what changes are the 12-team playoff going to make? And then also, where are we at in 2030? Do we move to 16 teams? We just have a playoff. Do we have all conference champions make it?
Right.
So that's something we want to talk about. So that'll be the second episode in the series. All right, the third episode is going to be about the Power 2, okay? You and I have been very consistent basically since we started doing a show. We don't believe there's a Power 5 anymore. We think it's a Power 2 and everybody else, okay? So we're going to talk about that, and here's the thing. There's a lot of very smart people around college football who believe the Power 2 are going to break off completely. They think it just makes sense, the money, that those are the most valuable conferences, most valuable programs. I'm not exactly sure of that, but it's something I want to continue that conversation.
Yeah.
So again, I want to hear from our viewers, our fans. Put some comments in this episode if you can. What do you think about the Power 2 breaking away? Do you think that will happen by 2030? Would that be a good thing? Would it be a bad thing? And you and I are going to have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm excited for that one. I'm excited for all of them, but I'm definitely excited for that one. I think I'm even more excited for the next episode that you're going to be planning here.
So, excuse me a second.
You got some ice in there.
Yeah, I did. I went to take a drink of water. I got some ice. Okay, sorry about that. So, the next 2 episodes, the last 2 episodes, this is more of kind of a creative project.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Looking forward to this.
Yes, I've been playing around with this. I've been having fun. So, in the next to last episode, we are going to try and predict what is the makeup of what we're calling the Power 2 conferences in 2030. Big Ten, SEC. What teams are in there? What teams didn't make the cut? I think that is the biggest, to me, that is the biggest topic over the next 10 years,
Yeah.
the rest of this decade at least, of college football is who makes the cut into those Power 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give you my prediction of who I think. We're going to see. You may weigh in. You may agree with it. You may have some disagreements. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to hear what our viewers think too.
Yeah.
And then the very last episode is we're going to cover the other conferences. What happens to everybody else? Is there a merger between the Mountain West and the Pac-2? What do they call the conference? How does it look?
Yep.
What happens to the ACC? Do they get pillaged like the Pac did?
Mm-hmm.
They're fighting like heck. We've done all these episodes about the grant of rights, the ACC, and as you said, the ACC is going to go down fighting. They're not going to go out with a whimper and a whine like the Pac did. They're going to go down fighting. So what happens to them? How many teams do they retain? What do they look like in 2030? Are they still even remotely are they still a solid power conference, or are they a shell of themselves?
Yes.
And we're going to go through all the other conferences, basically all teams that in FBS Division I football. I'm going to do a spreadsheet. We're going to show it our breakdown of where we think all those teams will be in 2030.
I love it.
Now, obviously, that's just a fun exercise. I'm sure it'll cause a lot of debate. It's going to piss some people off if their team doesn't get into the Big Ten or the SEC, or it may piss some ACC fans off if we think their conference is going to get pillaged. So, anyways, again, this is it's a fun series. It's something to keep us all busy, keep the conversation going in the off season.
Yep.
So we're looking forward to doing this. I'm really excited about it, and I want your comments. I want your feedback. What do you want to see in these episodes? What questions do you have? And just give us your opinions on those topics, and we'll try and include that in the conversation.
Awesome. I love it. I'm really looking forward to this. I'm glad that you brought this to us, that we can do this series. So this is dropping on a Thursday, the 25th, our first real episode of this, which you commented is going to be focusing more on the NCAA and where are things headed with them. Yep. That'll drop February 1st, and then we'll look at kind of the beginning of every month here as we get into June there. And then we'll be ready for the college football season at that point. But yeah, please make sure you give us some comments on where this is at. Come back, check us out every beginning of the month. We're going to stay on all things college football. That's all we do here. Obviously, we're deep into the ACC lawsuit right now. We're going to keep updating that as new news comes out. We actually just started a mini-series, just a 2-episode series on the grant of right document. So that first episode just came out yesterday. The second episode of that's going to come out on Monday. So if you're really interested in the grant of rights, doesn't have to be ACC related, although we're talking about the ACC in those episodes because that's what's hot right now. But everybody has a grant of rights. We're digging into the information from a lawyer and where he thinks there's maybe some issue with this document that some schools could maybe take advantage of. So, hey, with that, we appreciate you for watching here on the Big Mountain. Make sure you give us a like. Make sure you give us a subscribe, especially if you want to hear this content. You got to be subscribed. Get those notifications so when we put out a new episode, you'll know when it's out. With that, we'll see you guys next time on the Big Mountain.